When you said there's always two, it reminds me of Phantom
The
Menace.
Sith, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, there's always two, no more, no less. I never got that
That's
as a
right.
kid. I got that. I got that later in life. So we're already getting kind of get into it. So let's talk playoffs round two. First round's almost over. Clippers, Mavs. So the winner of that would face the Jazz. We'll start there, right? The Jazz.
Yep.
Mhm.
How I'll go start with you, Dogger. Regardless of who, you can do both. We can preview both. Who do you think
Mhm.
would come out of that series, whether it's Dallas or Clippers against the Jazz?
Yeah, I mean, Utah has been a machine this whole season.
Yeah,
They can defend. They jack up threes
no other.
nobody else. Yeah. Um, but now the questions start that we've had this whole year of them. They're this juggernaut during the
Regular
regular
season.
season. But now what happens when you have to play this playoff basketball and you're playing against Kawhi Leonard or like Luka Doncic every night? Like who on Utah can be the best player in that series? Because that so often is what decides a playoff basketball series. So with that being said, I really want to see how they play, for the first couple games. But I'm inclined to pick whoever comes out of the Dallas Los Angeles
Wow.
series, just because I know they have that ceiling where you can have this Luka Magic game or this Kawhi takeover game or this Paul George takeover game, where like who's doing that for Utah? Is it Mitchell? Is Conley going to have a 30 and 15 game in, game six or something like that? I just want to see some kind of upside with them.
Okay, I'm very surprised you didn't go with Utah. I'll expand on my turn. John, what about you?
I'm in the same boat. Honestly, I think Lakers or not Lakers, Clippers or Mavs have the better player just individually, but I think they also have not necessarily the better supporting cast, but like we saw Utah go to war with Denver last year, and they weren't able to get it done behind Donovan Mitchell dropping 50-point game after 50-point game, which Jamal Murray was obviously answering that. But I think the difference there was Denver had Jokic, they had Michael Porter Jr., they had other guys that had that ability to step up in the playoffs. And it's not that Utah doesn't have depth because they absolutely do, but it's if Mitchell is putting on that performance, it's not like Gobert is going to do anything like crazy special offensively. And also with the small ball that the Clippers are running, what is Gobert going to do? They're going to have to run some sort of zone like the Mavericks are. With the Mavericks, if they played Utah, I don't think they start Boban. I think that Kristaps is playing the five, and in that scenario, once again, floor spacing. And you and I have both been critical of Rudy Gobert in the playoffs. His value does decrease when these
Absolutely.
teams are forcing him into switches on the perimeter, and he can't just sit there in the paint. So I think all those things are a factor, but ultimately, like Dogger said, it just comes down to who the best player is. And I have a lot more faith in Luka Doncic and Kawhi Leonard being able to drop 40, 50-point games nightly to just will their team to victory than I do Donovan Mitchell, who is still coming off an injury. Like, I mean, obviously the Grizzlies put up a great fight, but I think the Grizzlies are a team that are on the rise, and they don't have the same level of talent that the Mavs and the Clippers do. And also, which I talked about this with the Knicks. The way that I view Utah is sort of similar to like that Atlanta Hawks team that was the one seed
100%.
when LeBron and the Cavs were like the 3 or 4 or whatever it was, and then they just swept them. I don't think Utah is as bad as that Atlanta team. I think Utah's actually better because they have a more sound defense. Rudy Gobert provides a lot of stability. I think that Donovan Mitchell is a far better star than anybody that Atlanta had. But I think teams like that, you see these teams that get the one seed who are not necessarily like the best team that anybody would really ever pick to be like the team that represents the West side of the finals. And I think a portion of why they get that first seed is because a key differentiator in the regular season can be your effort. Tom Thibodeau and the Knicks, that was a reason why they were the 4 seed, because sometimes Kawhi Leonard is resting and you play the Clippers and he's not playing or he's not trying as hard because they know that they have to save themselves for a playoff run where they want to go deep. To where a team like Utah, they want to get that first seed because they just have this mentality. They want to try hard, and that can be the differentiator in the season. In the playoffs, every single game, everybody is trying hard. That is no longer a thing that can differentiate you from the pack. And so I'm leaning towards the Clippers or Mavericks. I don't know who wins Clips Mavs. my gut tells me the Clippers are going to pull it out,
Yeah.
but also it's been the away team has the advantage. So it's just such a weird series. And honestly, I think Luka's going to ball out. Like I'm thinking he could drop a 40, 50-point game because the Clippers have not shown the ability to stop him, really. So I don't know who wins that series, but I think whoever does, they're my pick to beat the Jazz.
Wow. All right. Well, I'm alone on this island. So here's a few things. I'm going with the Jazz because I think Donovan Mitchell, and I think especially having the rest that this series has gone on, other series has gone on, it's given him extra time to rest up, and he seemed okay. He seemed solid. The games he played, like he seemed like he was, not 100%, but 90. Like it wasn't, it wasn't limiting him too badly. And I think too, the Rudy Gobert thing is real, but I think the fact that they got back Derek Favors in the offseason, he's been pretty solid for them coming off the bench, and I think he's not as good, he's a little bit better switching than Gobert. He's not, ideal, but he's a solid defender. And I think too, I don't think they had Bogdanovich back in the bubble, and he was a very key, scorer, and especially with regards to their floor spacing. They love to use him at the 4. I think Jordan Clarkson's gotten better in the system too, especially Mike Conley. I think that was last year Mike Conley's first year in Utah, or was it second?
Yeah.
Okay. First year.
And once again, I was very surprised that one of the biggest pro Mike Conley guys over here,
My guy.
is anyway. And I think he's gotten a little better in the system. I think Quinn Snyder. I love Quinn Snyder, the coach, and I think he's probably been telling these guys like, hey, everyone's doubting us. Like, so are we gonna let that be true? We're gonna, step up and play. So, I think obviously winning the 1 seed was big for them, but I think obviously their sights are set higher. And I know Joe Ingles hasn't had a great playoffs, but he had a solid season, and I think regardless, especially if it is the Clippers, because he has free real estate in Paul George's head from the other time they played, and I just think they have a lot more. They prevent a lot more issues to both of those teams than they maybe could have in previous years, and I think this is it for Utah. Like I think Utah knows like they have to. This is the year we have to at least make a good run. Because if you don't make a good run, then we gotta figure. We gotta trade Gobert. It's a what's the phrase? It could be a franchise defining year for them going forward. So I'm going Utah. I believe in them. I believe in Quinn Snyder. I believe in Donovan Mitchell. I don't believe Rudy Gobert would be completely ineffective, but I wouldn't be surprised if he isn't. But regardless, like I said, they have more answers now than they have in previous years. So I'm going Utah there. But I think it'll be a good series regardless, whoever comes out. I think it'll be a 7-game series. So all right, so going on to the other series in the West, the Suns beat the Lakers, and now they play the Denver Nuggets. I saw someone go say, man, Adam Silver's having a heart attack over these ratings. But, man, I think the ratings will be fine. It's still fun basketball to watch. All right, so I'm going to throw it to you, dog. I think I know where you're going to go. But are you going with Jokic in the gang, or you going with the Suns for our good friend Kyle?
Yeah, shout out Kyle. I think that he's a great guy. The Suns are a great team. I just don't know how well DeAndre Ayton will do against Jokic. Okay. I mean, he's been really good recently in these playoffs. He was incredible for most of the stat series against the Lakers, but Jokic, it's that kind of thing where he will be in terms of pedigree. I mean, I would say that he is the best player in that series. I mean, like he's the MVP, and we'll see, man. Like I'm in awe just every time that I watch him. Like I can't really get past anything with Denver besides just watching him and feed it to MPJ and feed it to Murray and just everything runs through him in this really. In a way that I'm not sure that Phoenix can stop. So that's my gut. I love Phoenix though. I love Chris Paul. I think that starting unit especially is so good working with each other. They all sort of like the player profiles really work with each other. Devin Booker coming off those screens is money. I think it's just they're also kind of a machine, I think, in a similar way of Utah, but I don't know, like it's a similar thing on that side of the bracket too. Like I just have to go with who the best player is. And Jokic, like he could put up 36, 20, and 20. Yeah, like that's the bottom line. And I don't know if Phoenix can stop that.
All right. So I got a question for you later, don't let me forget. All right, but John,
okay.
What about you? You going with the Nuggets, or are we still riding that Suns bandwagon, the Suns gorilla?
My gut has gotten me this far. All right. And
Except for the
we don't
Buck
talk
series.
we,
Bucks
we
Heat
don't
series.
talk about the Heat and the Bucks series, okay? Because that was also entirely my gut, but
But
we're not going to mention that
You're
one.
shooting 6 for 7 so far. We don't know what the other series is going to be yet.
Well, I picked the Knicks too, so I got that one wrong.
We won't count that one.
That one was me.
Listen, I may have influenced that too. I was very pro Knicks the whole season. Shout out
Anyway,
Moses.
at least out west, my gut has got me this far, unless the Mavericks win. Because before the series, I picked the Clippers, and I'm gonna stick with that, just because that's where I started. But like I said, my gut has gotten me this far, and I said I may sound like a genius or an idiot, but I was taking the Suns over the Lakers, and it happened. And I'm sticking on the Suns bandwagon, baby.
Sure.
Part of this is also because I want the Suns to win. I've already told Kyle that once the Celtics are out, I want the Suns to win this title. Screw everybody else. I'd rather see Chris Paul and Devin Booker and Phoenix, who sucked and was the worst team 2 years ago, get the title than like the Nets. Like, screw the Nets. But yeah, I'm taking Phoenix. I think Devin Booker is built for the playoffs, and I have been someone who has been a critic of Devin Booker. I thought that he was one of those players that was putting up a lot of stats, but couldn't necessarily lead to winning, especially when Chris Paul first came and they were winning. It felt like Devin Booker was putting up the exact same stats. So it seemed like, where's the issue here? But in the playoffs, Devin Booker, in the absence of Chris Paul hurt, dealing with the shoulder, whatever, and they're having to run with Cameron Payne or even Chris Paul on the floor, couldn't even hit rim on a three-pointer. Devin Booker stepped up big time, and I was incredibly impressed by his ability to handle pressure and double teams, because the Lakers literally did not respect Chris Paul's ability to shoot for most of that series. And so they threw 2 people at Booker. He found the right play a lot of the time, and he was able to just put up bucket after bucket. And I think that he is riding this Kobe-esque mentality right now, because of Kobe wrote that thing on his shoes, be legendary. And it's this wave of young players, right? They want to prove Kobe right and live up to the expectations that he had for them. And so I think Devin Booker is going to have a Jamal Murray-esque performance from last season, to where he just goes off the rest of this playoffs. I do think Jokic is going to eat. I think that he is far and away a even harder mismatch for DeAndre Ayton than Anthony Davis is, because Anthony Davis is not a passer. He's a guy who's going to score on you. Jokic can dime up people and still somehow drop 30. And he does it in the smoothest of ways that you don't even necessarily Jokic on you, but he is. So I think it's going to be an offensive battle. But ultimately, I believe in the Suns' supporting cast and ability for everyone to step up offensively, and also guys like Mikal Bridges to have a really competitive battle with an MPJ, who, mind you, he just had an amazing series against the Trailblazers. He went crazy in that last game, and that was being guarded by guys like Robert Covington too. So he was going against good defenders. But yeah, I'm riding the Suns bandwagon. I just have this feeling in my gut that they're going to do it. And I think that this is a series where we're going to really see that Jamal Murray, his absence is going to, I think, be highlighted in this kind of series, where Chris Paul and Devin Booker, they have a significant advantage at the guard spots over Denver.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this is a tough one for me. I literally flip-flop the last 3 minutes just hearing you guys, but I think I'm gonna go with Phoenix. It's tough because I think the guard thing is very true. Like Chris Paul, Devin Booker, they're not really gonna have to work that much on the defensive end. They'll be chasing around Campazano and Austin Rivers, and then on the other end, and so yeah, I think the fact they don't have to chase around Jamal Murray, and that the Suns don't have to invest another one of their perimeter guys on Jamal Murray. They can just put one on like I said, Michael Porter Jr. and then just focus on Jokic. But that's what scares me is Jokic and Ayton, like you both mentioned. Different animal, because also Nuggets are going to play small ball, so it's not like Ayton can just sit on Drummond like he had breaks. No, the Nuggets are going to force and so I'm also very curious, are the Suns going to put Crowder on him? Because I remember the Blazers tried to I think one game Nurkic fouled out and they just stuck Rocco on. It had mixed results. So I'm interested to see if they don't put Ain on him. But if Ain is on him, it's going to be a long series for him defensively. And I was a bit, and once again, like I love what you said, Dogger, because I was very critical of Ain going into that playoff series, and he exceeded my expectations.
He was great.
Yeah, I know people are going to say, well, he didn't have that great defensively, but he was efficient and he got boards. That was what I was more concerned about.
Yeah.
What worries me though is, and at first was like, well, I don't think Cameron Payne's gonna have the same effect on this series. I've been worried that's an anomaly. But then again, like Denver, like I just mentioned, I don't think Jokic's not the greatest rim protector. And I feel like after going up against the Lakers, I think they're a better defensive team. I think guys like Cameron Payne, on other guys off the bench, maybe Frank Kaminsky will see some minutes. They'll still be able to contribute. So I expect this one also. I would put more money on this one being a 6 or 7 game series, a close series, than the other one. But yeah, it's very close. But I'm gonna go with Phoenix. I think they're just riding a wave. Like you beat the former champs, like that gives you confidence like no other. Especially beating LeBron and beating AD. So I'm gonna go with Phoenix as well. But
I think the interesting part about the series too is both teams just played in the first round teams who are built very similarly to the opponent they're now going to play, right? Like the Nuggets just played 2 elite level guards in CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard, who have a pretty solid big man in Nurkic and a defensive forward in Covington. And that's sort of the same similar build out of like the Suns roster, right? 2 elite level guards, a defensive minded forward, good 3-point shooting, and then a solid big man. Meanwhile, the Suns played against the Lakers, who have an elite level forward and an elite level big man. To where the Nuggets, I mean, obviously there's a lot of differences between those two, but I mean, Jokic has the passing ability of LeBron. He is a really good big man, like an Anthony Davis. Michael Porter Jr. has, at least right now, he's playing at a really high level in the playoffs, and he's a bigger forward, kind of like LeBron is. And has the offensive aggressiveness of like an Anthony Davis, to where he's just going to go in, he's going to score, and that's what he's going to do. So I do find it interesting that both teams almost had a sort of preparation series for each other. And so, yeah, I think this one could easily go 7. And I got to say, I don't know if a lot of people were tuning into those Nuggets Portland series, but those are some of the most entertaining games of the entire first round. And I would not be surprised if this series is the exact same way.
And just a quick note on that. I know I love CJ, but he had a rough series. And so,
he did.
But the question I wanted to throw to you, Dogger, just real quick.
Yeah.
Is Jokic creeping up there in the stratosphere for you of your Bill Waltons, Sabonis? Is the dad Sabonis, not young Sabonis. I don't think young Sabonis is up there. But is he creeping up in that? Because I know he has a lot of the skills. Like, it may not be as good defensively as those two were, but he creeping up in that stratosphere for you? Because I know you hold those guys in high regard.
I think he's the best passing center we've ever seen, and I said that about Bill Walton for a long time. But Jokic can just do things that nobody at that size has done in the NBA. I think this is a hot take, but is he the best offensive big man?
I think
in terms of just skill set,
I think that's fair. Like, he can handle the rock. He's a good passer. He can shoot and finish. And if you're just speaking offensively, I would agree. I don't think it's crazy.
He is like the LeBron James of centers. He might not be the best at one individual thing. Like, he's not the best post player, right? Mm-hmm. But he's like the all-around best, because he can pass.
I think that's a good way
like
to put it.
The best passers. He can shoot. He has a post game,
and he puts it all together too. He knows how to utilize his entire. Because some guys they can have that, but they don't. They haven't utilized it. Like.
And his ability as a passer, obviously, like we talk a lot about that, and it's earned. I mean, it's all time great stuff watching him pass. It's also, as a shooter, he's become elite. He's become a phenomenal shooter to watch.
1 foot step backs and
absolutely, his touch around the rim. It takes a lot of natural talent, which he obviously has, for somebody with that athletic profile to be considered unguardable. But he is unguardable, and he's still getting better. Like, he went up a level this year, and he's a transcendent basketball mind for sure.
Yeah. All right, I just want to throw that out, and I'm glad we got that. So
yeah,
because I personally was curious. So all right, we're going on to the game that's going tonight.